Okay, it's time. We're going to call the meeting to order for the Judicial Committee. The first order of business are the minutes on January 9th.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next order of business. Comments from the citizens. Any citizen comments, Savelle? Seeing none, we'll close the comments. Okay, the first order of business, we have 2 reappointments of judicial commissioners. Now, prior to this, I sent an email out to the judges for any input. I didn't receive any back, and that was appropriate?
Well, I don't think there was, we received, all of us were contacted by Ms. Hale,
Okay.
saying that she was gonna resign
Okay,
the day she resigned. The other 2 that were up, I don't believe anybody had any objection to them. That's the
Okay.
reason you didn't receive anything from.
that's
Judge Lee.
fine. That's why I assumed. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
So the first order of business is Stacy Swindell for a reappointment. And this would be a 1-year appointment, I'm assuming, unless you have any comments on that.
I'll make a motion for that.
Okay, I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the next one is John LaFever, the same, a 1-year appointment.
I'll make a motion for John.
I'll
Second.
second.
Any other discussion with John? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that would be the old business. New business, we have Miss Lisa and Kiana has interviewed several people. They've come up with 3 part-timers they would like to be appointed. And they've gone through all the process of interviewing. And the first one is a person named Todd Gibson. He's got a BS in criminal justice, a master's degree. And he's available weekends. And his previous employment was with the same corporation for over 30 years. This would be a part-time appointment for Todd. And it's my understanding he's been vetted by both the human resources director and Lisa. And do you have any comments on this at all? At all? No comments? And I would entertain a motion that we,
Are there 3 positions? And 3 people for 1 person for each position?
there are 3 positions, 1 person for each position, they're all part-time. And any motion to approve? Todd?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on it? And this would be a part-time 1 year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Todd. The next one is Luis Martinez. She has a BA degree. She's available any day, any shift, including weekends and holidays. Looking to advance to a full-time eventually. And also, this person is bilingual, which is a big plus.
What is her first name?
Her name is, or the name is Luis, Luis Martinez.
I think it's a gentleman. It's a
Yeah,
he.
it's a gentleman.
Yes,
Oh, they did that already.
so, yes.
Commissioner Dow's here.
I'll move for a 1-year part-time appointment.
1 year, all these would be for 1-year part-time appointments.
Second there.
Okay. Okay,
Who
any
made the
other
motion?
discussion on
Lauren and you.
I did,
Luis?
yeah.
Is Mr. Martinez? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Disapprove? No. The next one is Misty Giles. Misty Giles has a BS in criminal justice, sociology, a master's degree, experience in corrections. She's available any day, including holidays and weekends. She's also looking for an advanced full-time position eventually. And these all have been vetted by the HR department and the judicial director.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is it as far as I'm concerned with
I
that.
think, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think on the agenda tonight, we put down 3
Correct.
appointments.
So I'm
when
gonna
you-
I'm gonna make a motion to adjust the agenda.
To amend it
Yeah,
to five.
to amend it to 5.
That's all right.
Okay?
If I could, that information that you have on that sheet, if we could just get that prior to the meeting too?
Yeah, that would be great. Is
That
there
would
any
be
way we
helpful.
can get copies
Yeah.
of this to each commissioner?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay, and just
Yeah.
put it on the desk? That would be very helpful.
Or email it?
Yeah, yeah,
Email would be great.
yeah, that way we'd have it in advance.
Well, some people, well, I'm just saying before the meeting here tonight. That's all.
Before the,
If we could get
before the
email the day
appointment
of the
meeting.
meeting.
before
Yeah,
we-
even the day
Well,
of.
this is
Committee,
tonight.
because I think it's what
We
you're
want-
saying.
No, I'm
Right.
saying.
Just in the future.
Yeah, in
Oh,
general.
in the future,
In the
okay.
As
future,
far
no,
as
not that.
information on the people that we're
I agree
considering.
with you totally. As a matter of fact, I'd like it in the
In the
package in the future.
Yeah, that'd
The
be
back,
good.
just like the mayor does for his appointments.
Right.
Okay.
I've got a question for Lisa, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I know, Lisa, the last part-time appointment that we did, you had developed a training program. So you could
Yes.
actually bring somebody in. I don't know if anybody at this table is really familiar with the training program, but maybe you could speak on that a little bit. I thought it was a really
Well,
great
I
idea.
I will speak on it. She's decided not to do the training program for these people until they're appointed, because the last one we did, she got trained, and then she couldn't work any days.
Is that the one that we discussed?
Yeah, we just discussed it.
Okay.
And she couldn't
Has that
work.
one left?
As far as, she resigned
Okay.
already.
Okay.
So we don't want to do that again, because just like Mike said, it's never been vetted to do it that way.
Well, the only reason why I brought it up is I think it took off the table the issue of having there being interference in a decision. Because if you get to be trained before you actually become a judicial commissioner and are official, then there shouldn't be a question at that point. They should be ready to actually do the job itself. So they shouldn't be asking questions at the time. Does that make sense?
Well,
Because I
what-
think that's what some of
Well,
the problems
what
have
has
been in the
happened now-
past.
What has happened now, Lauren, is that between HR and Lisa, they got together and they went over all the shifts in this department, and each one of these has verified that they're available on the shifts that they've indicated.
I understand. That's not
Yeah,
what my
and-
Yeah,
question
she's,
I
was.
know, but
she's
tra-
talking about the writing of warrants and having the understanding going into the job and that training purpose going into that job.
Right.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so that way you're not actually, you've already taken an oath, you have not, you take an oath and then suddenly it's on the job training. I think that's where maybe some of the issues that we've had in the past
Okay,
were.
excuse me.
So,
Go.
How we handled that, how we can handle, and how we handled it in the past
Yeah.
is they're appointed by the county commission subject to a successful background check and successful completion of the training program. Then they're sworn in by one of the general sessions judges.
Okay.
So during that window, before they're actually sworn in by a general sessions judge, they're not yet a full-fledged judicial commissioner. We can complete the training program in that window.
right, I guess that's what I was asking for clarification, because I know that was something new that you had developed and I thought it seemed to work quite well.
It did work well,
So,
and we did it
that's
one
what I
time,
wanted to
and
check.
She finished the training program, and 6 days after Judge Tatum swore her in, she sent us a message saying she wasn't available Monday to Friday and every other Saturday. So,
Is there
Okay.
a
That
training
didn't work out
program
real
that the
well.
state provides anywhere?
Gotcha.
Because, I mean, like most, like as
Yeah.
far as for law enforcement, obviously there are schools out there
They,
that the
they
state
do
provides.
have
that you can go to.
training
Yeah.
and they go to seminars and.
But they don't have like a new hire training.
No, but they
No.
do have a yearly requirement of so many hours per year to train.
Right.
And that is scheduled, and they go to these venues to do that. And that's scheduled by that office when they do it.
Hey, Chairman,
Yes,
can I ask a question?
sure.
I had some firsthand knowledge of that training they don't get over there. Can we get them in the future hooked up with the judges to know the law, to where they know how to do certain things and what belongs? I tried to get a order of protection for my daughter who had 10 staples in her head from the couple of nights before.
Yeah.
Standing there with bruises on her and all that, and I was told she doesn't need that. Well, she did need it.
Well, here's the way it
And-
works.
and
When you
well,
go
here's
there,
what was working that day, he didn't know what he was talking about. He tried to talk us out of going in there. Took 2.5 hours. We didn't have anybody else waiting. That's ridiculous, and it's uncalled for. So training wise, they need to be trained on it.
well,
That's all I'm gonna say.
okay, very good, thank you. And the comments noted, and they understand that back there. And the intention is to train them so they'll be able to figure out what to do. But once they're sworn in, they're independent magistrates of the county. And someone in that, they can ask for advice and they can ask about the law, but all the law books are in that office and they should be current. And if they had any questions, we have a lawyer back there that can answer questions or can lead them
This
to
guy
the.
was a lawyer.
Well, that's just, I know who you mean. But once they're in that position, they're supposed to be independent
Did she
magistrates.
ever get an OP
She did get-
issued to her? Where did she get that from?
She got it from
Our
the-
office
that-
issued
there,
the
that
ex
office.
parte.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All
But that's
right.
what I was asking, was the training process
The end
period.
result was good.
Okay,
It was the
The
beginning.
process to get through it.
It was the
And
process.
here's what worries me about that.
Okay.
She's a lawyer,
right.
okay? If I just walk in there, I don't know anything about anything,
Oh, I agree.
and I'm told, oh, you don't need that because you've got this over here, what am I gonna, I'm gonna turn around and walk out,
Exactly,
okay?
exactly.
Luckily, we didn't do that,
Okay,
okay?
That
And
is-
it worked out.
okay,
And he was a very nice guy, I will say that.
Yeah.
Super nice.
yeah.
But what she was told in the beginning shouldn't have been told to her,
Right.
okay?
Okay, thank
I've got
you.
another clarification question
Sure.
about, since we're talking about training periods. So now everybody's understanding what I was asking about training periods. So if we did a training, or if, say, Director Calderoni does a 30-day training period, and then that person is then sworn in by a judge, would their beginning of their term begin at that mark after 30 days, or are we talking a 1-year term based on tonight?
Tonight.
Begins tonight.
Okay,
Tonight.
that's fine. I just wanted to clarify to make sure that we were all on the
It's
same page
tonight.
as to
It's tonight.
the process. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Has there been any consideration to a probationary period for these appointments?
Well, we
To
checked
see
the
if-
law,
if
we
they-
checked the law,
That's right.
actually. And we thought that would be a good idea, but we can't figure out in the law how we can authorize that. And we talked to Mr. Jennings on that, and we discussed that at length in a different meeting. And it's, the only thing we can do is go through the training period, and if they pass the training period, then once they're sworn in, they're it.
And
Now-
you say
now-
that, are they subject to termination?
They're subject to termination for various reasons. And,
Subject to being ousted. They can't be
and
terminated just
if
because of-
someone, like,
Yeah.
if someone has a complaint against one, they can go to the Board of Judicial Conduct.
Well,
And that
but
board,
that- And I'm very familiar with that board because I'm subject to their.
yeah, you're subject to that as well.
That board is for disciplinary measures. It's not, it doesn't really have anything to do with termination.
Well,
They
The-
don't deal with
there is no
employment.
termination in this situation.
we've actually had
It's appointed.
judicial commissioners go through that board before.
I understand.
Yeah, you probably know that.
I do.
And it is disciplinary for not doing their job properly, correct?
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
It's for improper action in violation of the Code of Judicial Conduct.
Exactly.
Is what it is.
Right.
But it doesn't have anything to do directly with the employment or removal from office.
Now, we do.
They can suspend you.
Right.
For various reasons, but I'm talking about a different issue. I'm talking about if someone's not doing their job, how do we go about getting them out of that office?
Judge,
Okay.
I think what the statute says is that the commission appoints for a term not to exceed 4 years.
Right.
Now,
That's what it is.
the definition,
Consultation with the general sessions judges. Right.
Right.
Right,
and
It's
the
41-111, I believe.
right,
right.
as, I think it's under the proceedings, not necessarily under the criminal statute.
Correct.
But we had looked once before, what's the definition of a term? A term, in my mind, could be anything that this commission would appoint. It could be 30 days, it could
Right.
be 1 year, it could be 6 months, it could be 4 years.
Well, and the argument would be if you have the ability to determine what a term is, then you have the ability to impose a probationary period.
Exactly. So if we want these new people to have a,
I don't think there's anything in the law for that.
Well, I think what he's
Mike,
saying
I
is-
don't think it necessarily is, there's nothing specific to that. I believe you're right. But there's also nothing prohibiting it. And so.
That's
you
the
know,
George Harding theory.
Well,
If it doesn't say you can't, you can't.
Well,
Yeah.
right, and so.
That's the
under-
Navy. That's the Navy.
Under that theory, let the legislature, or I guess it would have to be the legislature, tell you that you're wrong. If you all as a board, or if you all as a committee wish to impose something like that,
Well,
I don't see anything
I think
in
if
the
they
law
were
that says you can't.
appointed for a term of 90 days,
Yeah, that would be a probation.
and then they come
Yeah.
back after
Sure.
90 days and we reappoint.
That could be done.
That'd be the way to do it.
But once
From
they
that
get
point of
elected
view.
tonight, they've got a year.
Right. I think
Whether
that's
they pass the training or not.
Correct.
And the
That's-
only way I know to deal with that, if they don't pass the training, is
Is
not
it out?
scheduling.
right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was
No,
circling a
they-
minute ago.
No, wait a minute, excuse me. The employment is offered based on passing the training.
Mr. John, that's not what the
That's
law
not right.
says.
No,
When we
that's not
vote
what
on
it
it
says.
tonight, that
No.
term
They get a
starts.
year.
Right. And so that's what I
But
was
they're
saying
not,
is that.
but they're not a judicial commissioner until they pass the training and are sworn in.
That's
So if
not
they don't
what the law
pass the
says.
training and are not sworn in, they're judicial commissioners, but they can't actually do the job.
No,
Yeah.
I agree with it. I
No.
just said if they can't do the job, you just don't schedule
They're
them.
not
But
a
once you
judicial
vote in
commissioner.
there tonight,
Oh, I
for a
agree.
year, their term starts tonight.
But they're not a judicial
Right.
commissioner until they're sworn in.
Exactly.
They have to take their oath of
Right.
office.
Exactly.
So upon being sworn in, I believe they are judicial commissioner. Now, the appointment term, I think you're right, happens when you all vote on it.
Exactly.
And install them in that.
I agree
But
with
they don't, it's just like any of us, office holders, we can't do anything
Until
until
we're
we've taken our
sworn
oath of
in.
office.
Correct.
That's
But we
exactly-
can't hire
Right.
somebody unless they're a judicial commissioner. I mean, that's what we do. We appoint a judicial
Exactly.
commissioner.
Right,
That's
but
right,
I
for
don't
a
think
year.
that that's kind of what happened this last time around. That's why I'm asking, is I think that as we were trying to figure out ways to be able to actually make this office work better, I think it was discussed with HR and they hired somebody and did a training period. Now, again, this particular person didn't work out because of what happened with their scheduling. They weren't up front, but that they went through this training period before they were brought before this body.
Exactly.
At which point, they actually went through a training, you know, I know it was 30 or 60 days, but regardless, that way they knew the job. They understood what they were supposed to do. And then you don't end up in a situation where you have brand new people who are not necessarily familiar with this office and what this office does, actually then turning around and performing the duties of a judicial commissioner and then asking questions, which then become questionable as to whether or not they're allowed to do so if they're still neutral, independent, detached.
And I don't disagree,
So-
but they can't, there's not a position that I know of that,
There's not a.
because the term is elected
I hear
by
you.
the county court.
Yeah.
And we just can't go out and hire people and put them in a training program without a county court approving it because there's no position that says there's a trainee program.
Well, maybe there should be though.
I'm not debating it,
Well,
but
that's where we
Yeah.
have to look at different
Right.
terms. So
Exactly.
we'd have to initially look at a 90-day term.
Yeah.
And then upon the completion of that 90-day term, then look at a
That
year
could be
from there.
and I don't have a problem with that.
When do they get sworn in?
Once the
Will they
training
get sworn in tomorrow?
program is successfully completed to the satisfaction.
I thought
of
we
the
weren't
pe-
doing a training program anymore.
Big pardon?
Didn't
See-
we just say we weren't doing a training
No,
program?
they do a
anymore?
training
Right.
program.
You said that
that's-
earlier, right?
Yeah,
Once
that's-
they're
which is why I
appointed.
thought it was a good idea that we did a training
No, they're
program.
not doing the training that,
Before they're
What they
appointed.
tried
they're not.
Before they get appointed.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So what we could do though, okay, let me ask the director again this. So with the training program that you did, kind of as a test, did you think 30 days was long enough? Do you think 60 days is long enough? What do you think is
I think
an
that
appropriate time?
30 to 60 days, depending on the individual, has been the norm for training judicial commissioners.
Okay.
They do a training program, they do blocks of academic instruction, we do scenarios, then they learn the computer system and the processes, then they sit with an actual judicial commissioner where they're watching and then they're actually in the driver's seat. So it is graduated in steps, and
Right.
depending on how quickly a person masters, the computer system or grasps what they're looking for in the warrants and things like that, depends on how quickly they move up the steps. So it's really based on the individual, but on average, it's 30 to 60 days from the time that they're
Yes, ma'am.
appointed by the commission until we have a general sessions judge swear them in.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So we're
This man-
wasting
this man, we have
2 months
questions.
of that year
I
term.
just, I was
That's
asking,
where I'm- see where I'm going?
when they're
Yeah.
when they're in training or whatever, do they get a bump up each time or something, or they just get paid,
Get paid.
No, it's
they're all
the
the
same pay.
same? So what difference does it make if it's 30 or 90 days?
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
make any
So
sense.
make-
I mean, it sounds like we're wasting 2 months out of a year's contract. So we
Well-
need to, on our initial people, we need to start looking at having that 90-day period, whether it's 30 or 60 days training, and then that extra 60 or 30 days would be time spent on the job. And then we can
Right.
take into consideration what the judges think, see how they're doing, and all that. And then we can come back and make a good decision instead of
Right.
hearing a name for the first time tonight
Exactly.
and trying to figure out, do we want to put this person on for a year?
so how do we do that? How do we make that
Make a
happen?
motion on the floor.
Well, no, not just that, but I mean, like, we would need,
we
you
can
know,
make-
legally, what are we allowed to do? Came back to Judge Hagan to,
What we could do is collect the warrant, or the warrants or the orders of protection, whatever they have issued during their 90-day period. And then prior to that expiration, get with the committee and say, here's the work that they've done, we think they've done a good job, here's the work that this one's done, they don't get it, and we would submit that.
So I think
to you
part of
all,
that
and
statute
ultimately-
says we
Okay.
shall consider.
I really
Right.
like the idea of
It does.
adding them into our consideration.
I agree.
The statute
I
does
agree
say
100%.
Well, I
you
sent a
should consult
message
with
to all the
Judicial
judges
That's why I
asking
brought
for
this
their
up this
input for
evening.
these.
Yeah.
Except for the three.
But I love the
Yeah.
fact that we actually get to hear from one tonight. It
Right.
makes
Absolutely.
sense.
And,
Yeah.
and it's very
okay,
important.
so,
Not to necessarily, what I think what Commissioner Rich is suggesting is brilliant. I mean, I really think
right,
that gives much more oversight and, getting feedback from us in the field who see the stuff on a daily basis of their actual work is only going to be beneficial to you as the committee appointing these people and determining whether they get an extension beyond that 90 days.
okay, so I've got a question.
Mhm.
Okay, so for them to actually be able to issue anything though, they have to be sworn in as judicial commissioners, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what we're talking about is actually going ahead and swearing them in. So doing, would you
No,
do
no,
a,
you
would
can't
you do a
swear them
train?
in until they're trained.
I understand. Okay, that's what I'm asking.
You can.
So then give them.
So that's what I'm asking.
can.
Okay,
Swear 'em in,
so
yeah.
here, this is what I'm asking.
We've
I
done
mean-
it before.
So, right, okay, so what we're saying is we want to do a 30 to 60 day training period. Then have them sworn in, and then give them 90 days, and
So
then
we're
do a
looking at
judicial
the
total
review?
of
No?
Part of that,
Part
90
of that-
days total, is what
Okay.
I'm saying, just to
Okay.
help.
That
So,
makes sense.
Part of that
I think
90
yes,
is
I
the training
understand.
period.
I think it'll be,
If
Okay.
it takes 45 days to train, then they've got 45 days to work by themselves.
we got 8 minutes for our
Gotcha.
meeting, so I
Yeah.
don't think we're gonna solve it
Okay, why don't-
tonight.
I'm sorry, I should have
No,
brought this
I'm-
up at a different meeting, but I
We
mean,
can't have them
but this
working
was
by
something
themselves
to,
until they're trained. And
Right.
There's absolutely, this is not a job where you can just walk into and read a manual or
Exactly.
like that. They have to be trained. And
Right.
we don't swear them in until after they complete a training program. So we can't just swear somebody in and put them in a seat and, okay, here you go.
Unless they have
Right,
experience.
And
exactly.
you can't ask any questions because I'm not allowed to tell you any advice.
right,
So that doesn't work.
exactly. So trying to figure out what does work though, before we
Okay, why
actually.
don't we come back to another meeting and do this and figure this out because we have 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, we don't have
Okay.
to set the
We don't-
time,
we don't
but
have
we're
to
on the
set
right
the-
track as
we're on the
far as
right track and
understanding where we can go from there.
And we can investigate a little further, have Mr. Jennings look at the law, make sure this is on the up and up and do it, and even discuss it with the judges.
The
Okay,
problem that
but-
Mike's incurring is there's
Yeah.
very little law out there on this.
Yeah.
Right.
Really
I think
not
what
much.
you're talking
Yeah.
about doing, electing them for 90 days, and then if they pass the training and everything, and giving them a year.
There's nothing in that statute that would prohibit that.
I agree with that.
So,
Okay.
But you
don't have
can't
to
just
go-
terminate them. Once you give them that year,
It-
they've got a year.
They got the
They
year.
got a right to it. They got a contract.
But we don't have to give them a year after the 90 days, though.
No, you don't.
Right.
You
If
can
we
give
if
them
we
9
wanted to
more
give them
months.
9 months, we could,
Yeah.
and make that the
Okay.
year.
No,
At
what I'm
which
saying
point-
is, if we appoint them for 90 days, at the 90th day,
There's no
we don't
guarantee it goes
reappoint them.
beyond that.
You don't
Yeah,
have to
that's right.
reappoint them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
but they get 90 days.
I was thinking positive.
Based off the
I was thinking-
information that we receive from the
Hold on.
judges as far as
Okay.
their work performance.
But I've got a question, because we just decided that we were going to appoint all 3 of these part-time people for a year
Too late.
tonight.
We've already done that
We're
part.
already done.
So
Okay.
we're gonna, in the future,
So,
we'll research it and we'll talk with HR and we'll talk to the director and Mr. Jennings and see what the best way to do that, because we want to make sure, and like the judge says, there's not a lot of law on
right,
this. We did appoint at will before we figured that was not legal. You can't report You can't do it at will.
I know reasonable minds could disagree. and-
I know, but I thought
but
we could
I
do
thought
it.
I don't know why it's a term, but I know,
Well, I agree with you. We
But
did it at
but
will, and I thought that would work.
listen to Mike's advice,
The
and
term at will is not used anywhere in the statute.
but it's like
But
Judge Hagan
You
said,
know-
it doesn't say we can't. It
That's
says
true.
a term,
That's true.
but I will
to be
listen
set,
to your
to be
advice.
set by the
You
county
don't have to,
legislative
I'm
body.
just,
Depends on who's
That's
looking
what
at
it
it.
is.
If the comptroller's office is looking at it, then if the statute doesn't specifically say you can, you can't. That's the comptroller's office
Yeah.
default position, and I've fallen victim to it more than once.
Well, y'all are numbers people. It's different. It's different.
Okay. Okay, one more motion.
Motion
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
All right.
Thank you.